reflections of the first two games in Japan. Let's go.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen or watch us every day. Today's episode is presented by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. First two games of the season this week in Japan as part of the Tokyo series. More reflections and reactions. Later, we'll compare the couple game lineups between the Dodgers and Cubs. And I think I found the first official checkpoint of the season based on the Cubs' strength of schedule, which is challenging in the beginning part. Two losses in a row is not the problem. This isn't football. If the Dodgers started 0-2, no one would even blink at that this week. Overall, it was a special experience for the people there. But I will say it was an odd experience for the baseball part of it. And I would also say the consumer as well. And the baseball part of it, Sam, the problem for me, and we could go over concerns because there were some positives too.
Mm-hmm.
But the main problem for me in the two games was Cubs pitchers walking 15 batters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's freshman baseball level work. They committed 2 errors in the first game. The offense generally struggled. 21 strikeouts is a lot in 2 games. So that's where I land on how their record does reflect some of their poor play.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can get into some positives later too. But 15 walks, I mean, come on.
I'm glad you covered that. And I'll say my biggest frustration was, and I'm gonna do this because I think it's appropriate, because I understand that the 2 exhibition games didn't count, but trust me, with the buzz of that building, they were giving effort. In the 4 games there, they scored 8 runs, and I'm just tired of that from last year. I really believe that wouldn't happen this year. How many times have we discussed on this show, and you more than me, when the Cubs score 4 runs, what's their record, right? Mm-hmm. Score 4 runs, be competitive. Fine. The Yamamoto day, get it. That's fine. He was great. The Sasaki day, that was ridiculous. They should have scored more runs. So you take the bullpen, you take the defense. I would just like to say, the Cubs didn't hit a home run in 4 games. Not one home run. And really, they weren't particularly close. So offensively is my frustration, but I do have an overwhelming positive I'd like to share early in the show. And I'd like to publicly thank the major leagues. I'd like to thank Jed Hoyer, Tom Ricketts, Crane Kenny, even though I'm not exactly sure what his role in this organization is, Craig Counsell, and everybody for doing something for me that I needed for a long time. And that's to regroup and reevaluate my sleep schedule. Because I got to tell you, Matt, yesterday, I fell asleep. We're recording this on Thursday, about 9:30. Woke up at 7:45, and I feel ready to hit Sasaki. I feel ready to hit Landon Kanak or Alex Vesia or any of the low leverage guys that they put out in high leverage because they didn't really care about this series and still beat us. So now I'm excited tonight, 11 o'clock sleep. That's really early for me. So thank you for the Cubs for locking me in.
It did seem, so for me, like finishing up everything at basically 9 on Tuesday, by the time like noon hit, it felt like it didn't happen.
Right.
It was just such a weird experience.
No, it was.
And it was a dark experience. We wake up, it's pitch black. It's dark in the stadium. It was just a weird week. And there was some strain on the series, maybe some constraints on the series. It was early, but you knew these 2 games were real games. I'm not going to go down the path of, oh, those two should have been exhibitions, although I would have liked if they were based on
In hindsight.
what happened.
Yeah.
But the other piece of bad news I have, Sam,
Oh boy,
is about your favorite player. And this is for everybody out there. Pete Crow-Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, everybody. Actually, I'm not. But he could not swing this much.
Yeah.
I get the aggressiveness argument, but this was at most irresponsible. And at least it's going to be untenable.
Wow. I don't know what you just
9
said.
pitches to PCA this week.
Excuse me a moment. Can I get a dictionary here?
29 pitches this week PCA saw. He swung at 22. He went 0 for 7 with 3 Ks. Horrific. Double A stuff. Maybe single A.
So,
and I know it's 2 games, but this is starting to become a trend where he just swings and swings and swings. Drew 1 walk in spring training, and that is a concern of mine. And I don't care what anybody says. He doesn't have the resume to do that.
I hear you 100%. My counterpoint is this. I don't think he knows how to hit yet deep in counts if he falls behind. So I think he tries to get some pitches early. I didn't think he swung at a ton of balls early. There was a couple at bats he gave away, but I just don't think. I think let's say if PCA let's say they're playing against Burns in Arizona Thursday. Let's say he takes a called strike to start the at bat. I think being down 0-1 with his style, because he just doesn't recognize pitches yet, I think it impacts him more than it impacts probably any hitter in this lineup. So I think that's where the aggression is. But I hear you. It's unsustainable, and teams are going to start picking up on it. Kyle Tucker swung first pitch a lot as well, but totally different situation, obviously. I hear you. If you want to do some concern stuff, I really don't have a whole lot of long-term concerns. I think the Cubs are going to be fine. For me, my frustration.
Well, that's good to hear.
My frustration was this. We put in a lot of time, man. We put in a lot of effort. And you said that this isn't a football thing, but it was for these 2 games. So now, as a fan, as a podcaster, and as a listener, we have to sit on these losses for 8 days. And I thought Brett Taylor at Bleacher Nation put it perfectly. It just wasn't fun. They didn't do anything. The game was boring. There was no excitement. There was no great highlights. We got nothing out of Matt Shaw offensively. Thought he was fine defensively. We got nothing out of Pete, nothing out of Seiya, nothing out of Kyle Tucker until the game was out of reach. The 2 guys that looked the best offensively were Dansby and Birdie. It just wasn't very fun. And we anticipated this a lot. We're humans. You know what I mean? The greatest part about baseball, how many times do we say this? Hey, you get another one tomorrow. Well, in this case, you don't. So when you lose 2 and you got to sit on it for 7-8 days, you're probably going to be a little bit more upset than you would be if the Cubs banked in a win already this morning at 5 a.m. So I think that's the nature of the frustration. And then we'll talk about in the second segment. I just thought the Dodgers basically put out their B team, which was also really frustrating. And I'll say this, if we're going to do concerns, Ryan Presley threw 4 strikes and 16 pitches.
Well, no, the pitching was horrible.
Excuse me. And Porter Hodge threw 7 strikes and 15 pitches and continues to throw 95, 96. And the Cubs will be in a save situation at some point next weekend. And I feel about as confident as I did in April last year. And that's concerning to me. So
and Merriweather walked 2 as well.
A lot to work through, a lot to get better at. But overall, I think the Cubs will be just fine.
All right. Dansby Swanson, a couple good ABs this week. Ian Happ, 2 hits, 2 walks. John Birdie, 3 for 6 with 2 stolen bases. Congrats to him. And Caleb Thielbar, the only clean performance pitching, 3 up, 3 down on 13 pitches on Wednesday out of the pen. Eli Morgan was pretty good too, and he was rewarded on Thursday by an outrighted to AAA Iowa, along with Jordan Wicks, who didn't pitch, who pitched in the exhibition this past week. All right, Sam, let's get to some lineup comparisons this week, because while the Dodgers, the best player on the planet, was still in there, Two of the other top 10 guys were not. So, and the Cubs did not take advantage of that. Let's look at both of these. I have them in front of me, 1 through 9 from Wednesday, and we'll break it down right after this.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Matthew, I did a little exercise after the Cub game and said, okay, they're 0-2. What happened to their FanDuel odds? And they did move. The Cubs were plus 105 to win the division before Japan, and they bumped just slightly to plus 115. Their over-under has stayed steady at 86.5. So those two losses really essentially are pretty harmless in the grand scheme of things. Maybe a little bit of a slight movement. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, and there's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of the ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On. And as the Cubs go home, April 4th, April 5th, Matt and I are going to try and go April 5th. It's coming up, and I can't wait to count on Game Time to help grab the tickets that meet my needs. I love that I can preview my exact seat before purchasing, so I have no bad surprises when I get to the stadium, because those Wrigley Field pillars, folks, section 200, you never know. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
We're back here on Locked On Cubs. Lineup comparisons from these 2 weeks. I'm just going to go through 1 through 9 and then kick it over to Sam, who I want to hear what you have to say, but I think on the surface, those two absences for the Dodgers did bring the Cubs lineup much closer, if not exceed the Dodgers lineup. So we'll hear what Sam has to say. Dodgers lined up Ohtani, Edman, Teoscar Hernandez, Smith, Muncy, Kiki Hernandez, Conforto, Rojas, and Pajes. Cubs, Happ, Suzuki, Tucker, Bush, Shaw, Swanson, Crow, Kelly, and Birdie.
Yeah.
Some big takeaways, especially the out-of-town folks, Sam, like the national media, respectfully. Oh, the Dodgers are going to win 120 games this year. The Dodgers. When really the Cubs didn't compete that well this week. And the Dodgers took advantage of their opponent, really not mounting much of a threat. So where do you see that this week in terms of, the mighty Dodgers, but it didn't really play out like that?
So I want to preface this by saying the Dodgers are the best team in baseball, and they're going to win 105 plus games, and they're unbelievable. The point that I'm trying to make is this version of the Dodgers, what they put out, this version is their B level. This version of the Dodgers, this version does not win the NL West. This version. Okay. Not only were they missing the second and third best players in this series and two of the 10 best players in the world, they were also missing Kopech, Evan Phillips. They only used Trinan and Tanner Scott one time. You didn't see Snell. You didn't see Glasnow, et cetera, et cetera. Roki Sasaki would not have gotten the start if that game was in America. He would not have been their number 2 starter, okay? So my point is I was frustrated that the takeaways from a lot of people were, the Dodgers, the almighty Dodgers. And it didn't play out that way. So I want to do a little exercise with you. I'm going to go position versus position, and you tell me going into this year who the general manager, Andrew, we'll play Jed Hoyer versus Andrew Friedman. Would they trade for this person just on the surface? No salary, okay? So we're going to start with DH, Ohtani versus Suzuki. No comparison. And ultimately, that's probably why the Dodgers' lineup is better, because Ohtani's like having 2 or 3 guys, okay? So 1-0 Dodgers, but let's give it an extra half. 1.5-0 Dodgers, okay? Second base, Edman versus Birdie. No contest. We're going to go Edman, 2.5-0. You let me know when you disagree, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right field, Teoscar Hernandez versus Kyle Tucker. Folks, that answer better be Kyle Tucker.
Right.
Okay? So we got 2.5 to 1 in terms of just better offensive player. Will Smith versus whoever. It's not a comparison. 3.5.
Not close.
Yeah.
Yep.
Max Muncy, Shaw.
Not close.
Not close. 4.5 to 1. Kike Hernandez versus Michael Busch. I mean, Kike's really not a first baseman, to be fair, but that's the point. They were running him out there. Michael Busch should be better than him offensively and at first base. So we got 4.5 to 2. Okay. Any disagreement there?
Maybe because Busch was in the Dodgers org.
Right. But you got to remember, Busch didn't get the call because Freddie Freeman, not because of Kike.
Right.
Okay. If Freddie Freeman went down, Michael Busch would have started opening day easily. Right. Okay. Michael Conforto versus Ian Happ. That's got to be Ian Happ. Ian Happ's a better baseball player than him.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so now we're 4.5 to 3. Okay, Miguel Rojas or Dansby Swanson. That better be Dansby Swanson. Yep. So now we got 4.5 to 4, and then Andy Pages versus Crow-Armstrong. I promise you, if Jed gets on the phone and says, Andrew, you could have PCA for a year if we get Pages, he's running around going, we got the Cubs again. We got the Cubs again.
Right.
So right there.
So it's close.
It's close. And then
I like that exercise.
And then wait, hear who the Dodgers ran out pitching after Sasaki. Luis Garcia, not one of their main guys.
He was a non-roster invitee.
I believe a gentleman by the name of Jack Dreyer.
Yep.
Landon Knack, who only pitched in emergencies really for them as a starter last year. Okay, Kirby Yates, high leverage. Alex Vesia, he's their lefty guy, 6th, 7th, 8th inning. He would never close. You saw no Trinan game 2, no Tanner Scott game 2, no Kopech, no Phillips. Come on, guys. Stop. The Cubs did not play well and let the Dodgers off the hook in those 2 games. They caught a huge break.
They didn't play well at all.
You will see a much different team on paper when you see them here in April. That Dodger team is fighting very hard to make the playoffs. The Dodger team, when they get healthy, that's the best team in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it's and again, on the other side of the glass, yes, this week does reinforce, wow, the Dodgers are good, and it's because
they beat
of
you
all the absences they had.
Exactly.
And guys that were not even on the active roster because they pitched in the exhibitions or whatever it was. But just on the surface for those 2 games, just the 2 games that were played this week, it wasn't even a series. It was 2 games, right? A series is typically 3. 2 gamers kind of went away a couple of years ago. The Cubs are right there with their lineup, and they ended up not making it close at all. You know, after Amaya doubled there early on Tuesday, that was the only lead they had all week, and it wasn't particularly close. So I like that exercise. I would say that our argument since July 5th, 2022 shines bright in that type of convo.
Margin.
Because having a star or having a superstar matters that much to where even if the marginal level dudes are just average, replacement level, or even below, Ohtani got more than a point there. And you could argue that Tucker should as well. And we'll see if that plays out. But they have multiple of those guys on both sides of the ball. It's not exactly a treasure hunt to understand why they're so good, why they're such a force, why they're the defending champion. The Cubs were in close. Again, did we learn stuff this week? Sort of / not really. I'm really curious when we're going to see that lineup again, Sam. I'd be shocked if it was Friday, but maybe like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it's long. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They need it. They need it.
And the other thing that we've been talking about for years now is margins. And the Dodgers were just better on the margins. When the Cubs made mistakes, they took advantage.
Little things, man.
Roki Sasaki had 19 pitches. This is according to Nugget Chef. He has a 22,000 followers, does fantasy research for baseball. He had 19 pitches that he threw in the zone in his start. That was the third fewest pitches in a zone for a start since the start of last year, and he gave up one run. One run. Margins, right? High leverage hitting, getting the big hit, making the right play. Whereas, listen, the Dodgers got some help from the umps. Kike Hernandez, what did he do? He took advantage. He had about 400 feet. Yeah,
there was no damage done by the Cubs. None.
It was a combination of them having a guy like Ohtani, us not having one. Even though maybe, well, first of all, nobody's Ohtani. Okay, so
no.
But to me, it was just the margins. They ran out. Alex Vesia closing for them is basically Caleb Thielbar closing for us.
Yeah.
And it was just no problem. The guys
it's a slap in the face.
But the thing is, my point is that they get it done. They get it done. It's not for us, that'd be a huge deal. For them, it's like, fine. Scott's not available. We're not going to back-to-back. Alex, we trust you. Let's get it done. Boom, boom. Done.
Right. So. All right. Coming up next, we have what I believe is the first checkpoint, kind of reflecting on, yes, this is a challenging slate. Let's update what that looks like right after this.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, I found the first real checkpoint for the Cubs. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed the first 32 games. We also both believe strongly that Memorial Day is a good measuring stick as well. But given the challenges of the schedule, it's the first 41 that really you can check in on for the first time and evaluate where the Cubs are, reassess where they are, because it really is difficult. And Sam, before I go over this schedule, what are your thoughts on this challenging beginning to the season, including the two that's already in the books?
You know what? My thoughts changed after the Dodgers series because going 0-2, when you start to do the math, it's like, okay, we're probably not going to see 500. Like if we see 500 before we come home, that'd be a tremendous upset and tremendous success. So I think my mindset has shifted to, staying afloat, getting guys going, winning enough games where you don't fall too far behind, watching how other teams look, right? Like that matters, man. Like if the Brewers and Reds come out of the box and the Brewers get swept in New York and Cincinnati, it's like, okay, there's less urgency. But if the Brewers come out and they rattle off 8 out of 10 and you're 4-5 coming home, it's like, they might be the same team. We better start picking it up quickly. So all that stuff's early. I think for me, I just want to see the Cubs score runs, right? And I want to see them win the games they're supposed to. One positive from this 2 games is that they did not blow any games that they should have won. I think you could put I always say there's 3 ways, right? There's you just lost. You're going to lose this game no matter what with the way you played. You could have won that one or you should have won. Those are how I always divide up the 3 losses. I thought game 2 was probably a number 2. And then game 1 was the first one. But the worst ones are, man, we should have won that baseball game. And the Cubs lost almost 20 of those last year. 20. So the fact that at least they didn't give away one against a really good team and they just weren't really close, that's good. Win the games you're supposed to win. When you're up after 7, when you're up after 8, win most of those games. Get Tucker going. Make sure Seiya, looks like a competent hitter. And I'm just going to focus on those things and then just hope that the record is staying afloat for a little bit because it's going to be a grind for a while.
Well, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, win the ones you're supposed to. See the offense, get into some kind of a routine there. All right, so at Diamondbacks, at A's, Padres, Rangers, at Dodgers, at Padres, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Phillies at home,
Whew, man.
at Pirates, at Brewers, Giants, at Mets. That's the first 41, which is crazy. And if you look at the standings that day and they're 20-21, I would venture to say that we should be content with that and maybe even more. And another reason why is because I'm going to read you the next 15.
Yeah, the White Sox are in there.
Marlins, White Sox, Marlins, Reds, Rockies.
And Rockies home.
So that first 41, it's ludicrous.
Yeah, 100%.
We're not talking about the wrapper.
No, 100%. I mean, but again, that 20-21 really depends on what did Milwaukee do in those first 41. Because if they're
even though the strength of schedule is so high, there's still dependency on the other teams.
I don't want to be 9 out after 41 games.
Right.
So
what would the Brewers' record have to be if they were 9 out, though?
If they were 30-11, that'd be a big problem.
Jeez.
No, I don't think they will be.
That'd be a crazy start.
Well, last year they didn't lose a game till
I mean,
Labor
okay,
Day.
I guess you're right, but wow.
No, you're right. You're right. If they're 20-21 and Milwaukee's 27-14, which would be a really good start for them, yeah, that's 7 out. That still would be a little bit of urgency. But then what that does is it puts a lot of pressure to make sure you win 65% of those games that you just mentioned after that.
Well, that's true. Well, they need to, though.
Which the Cubs have not really done a great job of. I'll say this, though. Mentioning that stretch, home San Diego, home Texas, that first homestand,
yeah,
I'm pretty confident the Cubs are going to win those series.
Oh, good.
You're facing 2 warm weather teams in the cold. The Cubs, it's going to be a breath of fresh air being at home, being at Wrigley. Remember last year, they swept Colorado their first homestand and then won 2 out of 3 against these very Dodgers. So I think they'll get off to a good start there at home. The at LA, at San Diego stretch, and then coming home and facing Philly, you said, and somebody else.
Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Phillies.
Yeah, that is... Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be real hard. That's why it would have been nice to just get one.
Sure.
But I think ultimately 20-21, that type of number, even though I don't like doing that, is fine.
Yeah.
This Diamondback series, I think the Cubs could go in there and split it. And then you go in, you win 2 out of 3. Because you got to remember that 20-21 now, Matt, really isn't 20-21. It's 20-19.
Yes, I know.
So you've already banked out 2. That was one that you should have had.
Right. This reminds me of the day after the spring forward. I always say, "Oh, it's really when it's 8:30." I say, "Oh, it's really 7:30."
Yeah, right. No, it's going to be the first month. Stick with us, folks, but then we'll get rolling. We'll get hot.
Right.
And
so the Brewers open with the Yankees and the Reds open with the Giants. By the way, if you're watching the enemy.
I want to say this. I would like the Cubs to have an 8-game win streak this year.
Yeah, what was their longest streak last year?
It couldn't have been 8.
Yeah. Wait, let me look at this.
I think their longest win streak was when you were out of town.
It was 6.
Oh,
last week of August.
Oh, that's not. Oh yeah, when they beat the Marlins and Pirates.
The year before that,
it was
they
8.
Had
it was 8.
8-gamer, yeah.
That was against Cardinals, Sox, Cardinals, something like that.
In July. Yep, you're right. So.
8. Maximize the hot stretches. So.
Okay. All right, we gotta go. On Monday, Sam, we have the NL Central preview from Locked On.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So Monday, good call. Monday, we're going to post that. Folks, just real quick, Matt, quick programming note. I predicted 90 wins on the show.
Yes.
But on the NL Central preview that we recorded that actually before said show when I was at 88, don't think I went down to 90 still my prediction, okay? I got a little bit juiced up.
87 is still my prediction.
Yeah, and it might be 64. All right.
It's a bad take.
Joe George will be with us one episode next week, I do believe. Joe George is the postcast host for the Bears, Bulls, Notre Dame, and the Cubs. Locked On is adding postcast to most, if not all, team feeds this year. So Sam had Joe on last week. We'll have Joe on for a full show this week. And then domestic opening day, Thursday night into Friday morning, depending on where you are listening. That's a 9:10 Central start. So we will be on the air.
Are we going to be on the air? Or is it me?
It might just be you.
It's going to be a flashback.
I still need to look into that.
It's going to be the opposite of opening day. I'm going to be by myself at midnight.
It's really bizarre start times for the first two openers.
Well, they don't have a normal start game till Independence Day.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. All right, we got goofy the last couple of minutes. We're here 5 days a week talking about all things Cubs. Okay. The 0-2 Cubs, by the way. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. You are now Locked On Cubs.
See ya.